All right, man, peace. So, brothers, if you pay very close attention, notice how much the media continues to try to harp on this notion that the Raptors are better without Kawhi Leonard. And they keep talking about how the Raptors are 6-1 without him, and their record with him is something like 17-7 or something along those lines. Why are they doing this? They're doing this because they're trying to embarrass Kawhi Leonard into thinking about leaving Toronto at the end of the season, no matter what happens in the playoffs. That's very apparent. They've been doing it with Kevin Durant, and they're hoping that it's going to force one or both of them to go to the Lakers and sign with LeBron James, their boo thing. That's what this is all really about. I've never seen another great player join a team where it's constantly harped on and accentuated that his new team is better without him, like I've seen with Kawhi Leonard. And pretty much they've been trying to assault Kawhi Leonard from the start of this season with his laugh, and supposedly he's weird because he's quiet and he's to himself, and due to the fact that he's introverted. You know how people are today. They want everything to be so transparent that when there are still men with a manly personality where they keep certain things in their proper perspective and they don't make their lives an open book, they try to demonize them. Well, with Kawhi Leonard, they're trying to take it to another level because they want to make him think that the Toronto Raptors are better without him, so that hopefully that will force him to leave Toronto and end up in LA with LeBron James. That's how I view it. So anyway, they're going to talk about it and I'm going to chime in.
The Raptors handed the Warriors, it's snowing out, their third 20-point loss of the season. I feel like air conditioning on my legs. Joining the Magic and Bulls as the only teams with 3 20-point losses. Toronto did this without All-Star Kawhi Leonard, who missed his second straight game with a sore hip. Here's the deal, guys.
Kawhi Leonard walking down that hallway like, why is this camera up under my nose? Why is this camera up under my nose? And notice, Kawhi Leonard, he does not walk into the stadium with those ridiculous outfits on like James Harden or Russell Westbrook. He's a grown-ass man.
The Raptors currently have the best record in the NBA and are an astounding 7-1 without Kawhi. That record includes wins over the Celtics, the Lakers, and the Warriors. Max, how does this success without him make Kawhi look?
It makes Kawhi look like he's going to be the secret ingredient that they're going to need to finally get over the top. Now, keep in mind that Max Kellerman is a huge Kawhi Leonard fan. So, of course, he's going to buck the trend that we're seeing throughout the media of trying to coerce Kawhi Leonard into leaving Toronto by making him think that they're better without him. He's going to buck that trend, so I give him credit. But also keep in mind that, as I've stated, Max Kellerman is a person who's on record as stating that, in his view, Kawhi Leonard is without a doubt the second best player in the National Basketball Association. Better than KD, better than Anthony Davis, better than Antetokounmpo, better than Steph Curry.
Like the most dangerous man on the planet. Because we all know they're not better without Kawhi. They're better.
Well, me and you know that. And I'm sure that Stephen A. Smith knows that as well. But there are certain factions in the mainstream super liberal sports media who are trying to act as if they don't know that.
Better with Kawhi. And so far, this is what happens. He's new on the team. They got to get used to it. Sometimes other guys have to step up in the best player's absence. But let's not forget, when last seen healthy on a team that had no business challenging the Warriors, Kawhi Leonard and the Spurs had a 23-point lead at the half. That's
one of the great what-if questions that very few people ask when it comes to the NBA in the last 10 years. What would have happened in that 2017 series had Kawhi Leonard not gone down? Because the Spurs looked like they were going to give the Warriors all they could handle for that series. I mean, they were whooping their ass in that game.
He got hurt. They never whiffed another lead.
And Kawhi was dominating them. He was dominating KD. He was dominating Draymond. He was just dominating overall.
Another lead the rest of the series. Let's not forget that. Kawhi Leonard now on a team that's not like those Spurs. They're coached well like those Spurs, but with much deeper, with much more talent. And they're doing this without him. It is a problem. Everyone is on notice, including the Warriors right now. That's how Kawhi looks.
I agree.
Everybody's on notice, but let's not act like that might always be a bad thing. The fact that you put somebody on notice means you don't get to sneak up on them, which means they get to prepare and focus and lock in on you.
That's true, and that's fair, Stephen A. Smith, but we're talking about professional basketball players. They know who's good. They could tell just by watching tape. Steve Kerr can watch a Toronto Raptors game on television before they even got to play the Golden State Warriors, and I'm sure that he knew that they were going to be a major problem. Just by how they defend, what they bring to the table in regards to their youth and their length, it's going to be a major problem. Their only weak link is that damn point guard, Kyle Lowry.
Particularly if you're the Boston Celtics, who are in the same conference as the Toronto Raptors. No, there is no LeBron James anymore to have to deal with. Plus, you have Kawhi Leonard. Plus, Siakam, has developed nicely. The acquisition of Danny Green, as you pointed out, Max, has been a real big plus for them. Even though he's only averaging around 10 points per game, he's a bona fide three-point shooter who also can defend. And obviously, with Kawhi having...
Danny Green would be great on Golden State just coming off the bench. He would fit in with them perfectly. He fits in great with the Toronto Raptors as well.
Having the capabilities to play some point, meaning point forward, that might take some of the responsibility off of Kyle Lowry or Fred VanVleet, who are miniature in size and as a result could compromise you come playoff time. So all of those things are a plus. But if you are the Boston Celtics, you know what? Toronto is running away with the conference, Max.
Not quite yet. Toronto, I believe, has something like 23 wins. Boston, I think, is maybe about 5 games back. It's still very early.
Couple of weeks ago, we're looking at them head and shoulders above everybody else. The Boston Celtics are struggling. Kyrie Irving sounds worried. What happens? They've won 7 straight. Just like that. Now, mind you, most of it has been against sub-500 teams.
Exactly, and they just lost last night to the Detroit Pistons. I just believe that it does not make sense to talk about the standings 25, 30 games into the season.
But part of the process is playing your schedule, beating the teams that you're supposed to beat, and going forward.
I think there's another
without
element to
Jaylen
that.
Brown, without Al Horford last night, and what have you, they still handled their business against John Wall, who actually had a good game until overtime. I'm just saying, I think the...
Kyrie Irving and John Wall, they had a shootout. And Kyrie Irving, he just embarrassed John Wall when John Wall tried to defend him in overtime. Kyrie's one of the most devastating one-on-one players I've ever seen in the NBA. Just incredible.
think the Boston Celtics
Stephen A, let me
still
take
team.
that. Let me take that and make a counterintuitive point here. How have the Celtics been winning? Kyrie's been taking over and refusing to let them lose. For example, last night.
Okay.
And in fact, the fact that they are having to rely as heavily as they are on Kyrie to win on the one hand, and the fact that the Raptors have been better without Kawhi on the other, we know that they're not going to be better without Kawhi permanently. Kawhi is going to make them even better. And Kyrie can't drag them to the victory line every single game.
As you know, I was here at the game in D.C. last night. Let me tell you what I saw. Marcus Smart being inserted into that starting lineup. At one point in time, Max, they had him, Kyrie, Rozier, and that kid Williams on the floor, the rookie, at the same time.
Yeah, it's very clear that Brad Stevens is trying to find which lineups will be best because they're really suffering from having too many of the same type of talented player on that squad. And if I was Danny Ainge, I would be looking to trade a couple of those guys.
What am I watching Brad Stevens do? Build that depth.
And Williams is going to be a problem, especially defensively. He's a dog.
Because you've got to have it to go against the likes of Toronto. And you have to remember the purpose of having a superstar like a Kyrie Irving. You want those other ancillary parts to keep you in the game so you can hand the ball to your superstar when it counts and a nail-biter and say, take us home.
But Stephen
That's
A,
what
one
the
of the
job
reasons,
of a superstar is to do.
The real reason those who like the Celtics get that past Toronto, and I wasn't one of them, but I thought the Celtics would be right there at the end, was not just Kyrie or a few other pieces on the bench. Tatum, Brown, Gordon Hayward's return. By the way, Al Horford, who was the best player on the team last year. Horford has been a shell of himself, and right now he's hurt. Gordon Hayward has been a shell of himself. If those guys don't become who we think they are, if Tatum has not been what he was last year, Jaylen Brown doesn't...
Well, hey, I said before this season that Jason Tatum was one of the most overrated players in the NBA. I saw him last year. He looked like a nice player. He looked like somebody who maybe at his very peak might get to a point where he can give you 23, 24 points a game. Everybody, Jason Tatum's the next big thing in the NBA. I did a video about this. I said most overrated players coming into this season. I put Jason Tatum on there. He's okay. Now, I'm not going to come down on him too hard because, once again, there's a glut at his position, meaning that 2, 3, 4 spot where everybody's basically the same height and size and dimensions. Everybody, in that area is about 6'6", 6'7", trying to stretch the floor. You have Tatum, you have Brown, you have Gordon Hayward, basically all doing the same things. And then on top of that, your point guard, Kyrie Irving, takes the most shots. So it's difficult to grasp exactly how good Tatum is right now, but I knew that he was not going to have some huge season this year.
Doesn't get back. This is not the
I agree with that.
they were.
Oh, they got to play. No question. They got to show
fellas.
up. But if they do, they should be able to beat Toronto.
Okay.
We'll see. That's a pick 'em series right now. But anyway, we'll see how things go over the course of this season. Peace.